College football season is kicked off. NFL season is next this week. Not great debuts in 2025 for big names like Arch Manning and Bill Belichick. And that leads us to our NFL team draft. How do we think these teams will finish? Matt and I drafting NFL teams, but in reverse. Is it the March for Arch or somebody else on today's Peacock and Williamson?
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Love our everydayers. Thanks for hanging with us all off season long, and off season no longer starting Thursday. We are here week one of the NFL season, and Matt and I are going to do a little fun experiment here, drafting how we think teams will finish in the NFL season. Thanks to one of the listeners asked us to do our team draft, and apparently some other folks have been drafting their teams for who's going to win the Super Bowl. We're going to reverse that because we don't want to steal anybody else's stuff. When we are going to draft in reverse, we're drafting the draft order. Who is going to finish the worst with the worst records in the NFL? If it is indeed a March for Arch or any other quarterback, which is looking like a pretty good quarterback draft this season. I do want to thank everybody again for joining us here, all the everydayers and the new listeners alike. Make sure you are subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you have any ideas for us for our weekly mailbag, this is how it's going to go for the NFL season. We're going to be doing our 6-pack of picks on Wednesdays, and we'll be doing our mailbag on Thursdays, and then whatever games we don't pick from the 6-pack, that'll always have the Thursday night game in it. We'll do the rest of the picks for Friday, looking ahead to the Sunday slate of games every single week. And, of course, earlier on in the week on Monday and Tuesday, breaking down everything that happened from the previous week's football games and all the latest news. And so every single day we got something for you here on Peacock and Williamson. And that leads us to Matt. Bill Belichick. Let's start there.
Yeah, how about it?
I mean, he is royalty in the NFL. He strolls on into the college. I got my Carolina blue shirt on today, by the way.
Oh, yeah, you do.
He strolls on into the college ranks and just gets demolished in his debut by TCU. 48-14 was the final. The TCU Horned Frogs defeated the North Carolina Tar Heels in week one of the college football season. And it wasn't, it was actually close early. And then just, the Tar Heels got trounced, and Bill Belichick's team did not look ready to play. Do you think that he's going to find it even more difficult to build a roster in the college ranks than he did in the NFL? Because he was good early, and then he got really bad at putting together a football team late in his NFL career, which hurt him as a coach as well.
I don't have a strong opinion on it, but I am extremely interested. And I'm also a big fan, I guess, of Mike Lombardi, who's basically his GM in North Carolina. I used to listen to his podcast. I read both of his books he put out. He has a really interesting upbringing through the NFL, and a lot of it was with Belichick as well, but also Al Davis and Bill Walsh. He used to drive Bill Walsh around as a young pup, in the early Niner days. So he's with some legends. But they're both pretty old, and I'm not saying like the games passed them by or anything like that, but this is a new endeavor for old dogs. And you're right, Belichick's team building, roster building at the NFL level was flat out poor for the last handful of years. I mean, he overcame some of it, but it was flat out poor. N'Keal Harry and guys like that. My hunch is it gets a little better than it did the other night, but still.
He after the game, he basically gave his Bill Belichick answer, and he's like, well, we didn't do our jobs, essentially, and that's why we got beat in this game. I think that talent-wise, it's maybe going to be a slow build, and I think that's kind of what the plan is there. And we see so many college teams, and I think that's kind of the idea is like, well, they're being built like NFL franchises now. Essentially, it's free agency, and you have a budget of money that you can go get free agents every portal period. And obviously you have to identify talent, and you can get as much talent as you can, but this isn't like Saban going to Alabama or whatever. This is North Carolina, which is not quite as much of a hotbed of recruiting as some other colleges might be for former NFL coaches. So gonna watch this with great interest. I don't really have any hard takes on the job he did. Obviously not a good enough job because they got beat bad. Is he going to be able to implement what he did in the NFL in the college level and have that kind of success? I will definitely be paying attention, but I think the plan is a little bit more of a slow build as far as the roster goes for Lombardi and Belichick. We'll see if that works in the college level because you only get 4 years anyway. You can't go that slow.
Yeah. Now I will say they kind of underachieved for many years, but North Carolina always got good recruits. Like Julius Peppers. I mean, like they were like one of the best looking teams to come off the bus for years and years and years. And we played against them when I was a Pitt from time to time. And I was at that campus actually last summer, and it's absolutely beautiful, as everybody has said. I mean, it's a desirable place to go. And my hunch is they all have Jumpman on their jerseys and their logo. And Jordan,
Michael Jordan was at the game, so that's a pretty good recruiting point right there.
And I bet they have some money,
How about Arch Manning? Not the great debut for Arch in week 1 either. Some really low scoring games in college football from some of the better contests, LSU and this Texas Longhorns against Ohio State game, 14-7. Arch Manning was 17 of 30 passing, so just barely over 50%, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was off target quite a bit. Now, these are 2 really good teams with 2 really good defenses. His counterpart on Ohio State's side wasn't exactly lighting up the scoreboard with the way he was throwing the football either. So we'll see how things go. Again, a lot can happen in a long season, and I saw a lot of people pointing out that week 1 for a lot of former number 1 quarterbacks in their final college seasons wasn't always great. Joe Burrow or whatever on their way to national championships and number 1 overall picks, but. Not a great start for Arch Manning. Whether it's a march for Arch or not, we're going to draft who we think is most likely to have the number 1 pick in a pretty good quarterback draft. Do you have any takes from Arch's performance or any of the other big-time quarterbacks? Who do you like right now in the early going to be at the top of the draft for quarterbacks in the NFL draft?
Just in case we don't bring it up later in the week, history has shown that like week 1, week 2 of the NFL season are lower scoring. And I'd also heard recently that like blitz rates are at the highest in the NFL in week 1. And it makes sense the more you think about it because no offensive lineman has played every snap of every game yet in the preseason. And like I was watching Notre Dame, Miami. I watched that one start to finish and it was in Miami, hot. Notre Dame was shot at the end, and the defensive line for Miami, it has some prospects on it. We're just taking that game over. So my point is some of these games, LSU, Clemson, Ohio State, Texas, that are as close to the NFL as you can get. Low scoring doesn't shock me. Again, you can just bring defensive players in waves. Offensive guys got to stay out there a lot more, especially quarterback and the linemen. But watching this Ohio State Texas game, and I guess Texas has like 3 super easy games before they get in the SEC now. So he'll probably light up Southern Methodist State, whatever, for after this. But I thought it was pretty obvious that Matt Patricia, say whatever you want, he's a defensive coordinator at Ohio State doing crazy NFL stuff with coverages and rotations and late, showings. And Arch might be as smart as both of his uncles combined, but he's only played 2 games, and he looked like it. I mean, he looked like he didn't know where to go with football, tentative. And I heard, I think it was Dane Brugler saying, if you're the Texas team here, how do you even scout Ohio State with a new coordinator? You go back and watch Patriots Super Bowl tape? You know what I mean?
Well, it didn't help Bill Belichick's defense.
No, it sure didn't.
Maybe he should have hired Matt Patricia as the coordinator. It's interesting because, and of course we're tying this college stuff into the NFL, and that's why we're talking about it as it means the NFL draft and who we expect to draft high, whether it's Arch Manning or Nussmeier or, the South Carolina kid. Like there's some talent. The Penn State kids got an arm. I was on display in week 1. There's going to be a lot of talent at quarterback in this draft. So we'll argue about
Sellers in South Carolina is real exciting. Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll argue, probably in January and February and March about who the order of those players should be, whether Arch Manning is in this draft or not. I tend to think that Arch Manning is not even going to be in this draft. But on that note, the offenses are definitely behind the defenses early going in the football season. And I found it really fascinating on that same topic that Sean Payton was asked, like, how do you prepare for the Titans and Cam Ward in week 1? And he was talking about, well, you kind of see what you saw in the preseason, even though they're not showing much, and you go back and watch them in college. It's like, so you're literally scouting his college tape just to see if you can find some tendencies to figure out what to do. You don't really know how to attack them yet.
Really
so no tape to go by. So yeah, there's a filling out period at the beginning of the season.
1,000%. And a lot of these people, I mean, they always talk about 4 games. I need 4 games of tape to really get an idea what a team's up to. So all across the league, and certainly at the college level, you don't know what you're getting until you're in the game. Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's draft our team.
Right.
We're not drafting who's going to win the Super Bowl. We're drafting in the reverse order. Who is going to end up with the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next? Today's episode of Peacock Williamson is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy, and it's here. The season is here. It's kicking off Thursday. You can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season upon us. Everyone's researching, drafting, building their championship squads, getting their watch list ready for anything that happens, and things are going to get wild in week 1, as they always do. And if you haven't joined the league yet, now's the time. It's all happening on Yahoo Fantasy. And of course, Matt and I both playing Yahoo Fantasy this year, as we have for a very long time. And you should too, whether you're a first timer or a veteran, creating your millionth league. With the season kickoff Thursday, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. You want more ways to play? How about the brand new Guillotine League mode? Lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until only 1 team is left standing. You want to draft instantly? Try the new Draft with Friends mode. Prefer the classics? Get your crew together for head-to-head private leagues, or no crew, no problem. Just join a public league right now. The easiest way to play at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. The NFL season kicks off Thursday, September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. A quick note for our listeners here. We got a listener survey. So a quick request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, answer questions about our advertising. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. I am going to allow you to have the number 1 pick in our draft here, our drafting the draft order draft as we head into the 2025 season. So, at the end, we'll find out who our favorites are for the winning the Super Bowl. But let's go in reverse. Whether it's the March for Arch or any other quarterback, who are you drafting first as the most likely team in your mind to earn the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, man?
So I think there's 2 teams that kind of are at the forefront, but I think it's clearly the Browns, and mostly because the other team's the Saints. I don't know if you'll pick them or not, but whatever. I just think the divisions are so different. I mean, the Browns could easily be 0-6 in the North, which would be pretty terrible. And speaking of 0-6, I very much expect them to start the season 0-6 because I'm shocked how awful this is for them. They host the Bengals. Then they go to Baltimore. Then they host Green Bay. Then they go to Detroit. And then they play the Vikings in Europe, who had already been there the week before because they played the Steelers. And then when they come home from Europe, not only do they not get a bye, they go on the road to Pittsburgh. So if they start 0-6, I mean, I thought the defense kind of hung it up at the latter half of last year anyway, which is going to be the stronger side of the ball. Are we going to be on quarterback number 3 by week 7? Quarterback number 2? I can't imagine Flacco still being in there. I can't imagine hopes or morale in the building being good if you're 0-6 to start the season and have no hope. So it doesn't get a lot easier after that. But if you just start in such an awful hole and you're in a really tough division, I think they end up with the worst record in the league.
I'm with you, and it was going to be a really easy pick for me at number 2. I would have the number 32 in my power rankings is the New Orleans Saints still.
Okay.
I just have so many questions there. I don't know what they're doing, but Brown Saints, I think odds are those are going to be the two teams. So we've got Browns 1, Saints 2. Who's the number 3 pick in the draft order draft?
Super quick on the Saints. I just want to go on record that I am really, really worried about their quarterback situation, clearly, for this year. But I do think Kellen Moore is a good offensive mind, and I think the rest of the offense isn't terrible, isn't second worst in the league. You know what I mean?
Olave. Now that I think about it, I could see why you would build the case that the Saints are going to be better. And, they drafted a young quarterback higher than all the quarterbacks that the Browns drafted too. I think it's probably a disappointment that they drafted Shuck very high in the second round.
Early second round, yeah.
He was close to a first-round pick. For him not to win that job is probably, I would guess, a disappointment, especially you drafted a guy who's 26 years old, right?
At least.
Yeah. Soon to be 27, I think. You better be ready early, right?
I think the quarterback play is going to hold them back a great deal. And I also think the defense all of a sudden is super old with like Demario Davis and Cameron Jordan and guys have had really good careers, but the defense could be pretty rough.
The number 3 pick then.
This is where it gets tough. I'm going to go with the Titans, but I feel kind of good about the direction they're going. But I always say this. I mean, we're still in optimism season, where things are going to get better, blah, blah, blah. We're going the right direction. There aren't many teams you're just down on the dumps on already. But they did earn the first overall pick last year. I see a lot of holes on defense. I'm a Cam Ward fan, but I also think it's going to be a roller coaster rookie year. Like, I bet there's a lot of bad picks, and Ridley's like the only weapon I really see of consequence. So I'm going to go with them. But at this point, it's kind of foggy.
The roster's not in a good situation, and I'm not so sure that I'm ready to say that. I mean, it's gonna, even if the quarterback hits, they have the right coaching staff and the right stuff around them to be ready to go out there and win. They drafted some offensive linemen, which is helpful. I'm with you, man. And if they're not a top 5 team in the NFL draft, that is a very, very good sign, because that means they probably hit pretty big on Cam Ward.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and I hope, even if they are 5th or even 3rd, but show progress, it's not like, let's blow this whole thing up either,
There's a few teams that are right in here, and I've kind of gone back and forth as I've thought about this. I'm going to take the New York Jets here, I think. Even though they've got a lot of talent on the roster, I just feel like they are in a, let's field a team, but we don't even believe that much in our own team mode here in year 1 with the new staff.
I 1,000% agree. Again, the Steelers are going to New York in week 1. There's a lot of things to be worried about for the short term, including maybe the quarterback, and first-time head coach. They do have some pieces at least. I mean, I could see them getting better in a year or two. Two tackles are exciting, Sauce, Wilson, etc. But I'm with you. They were my choice too. Those 4 were in their own tier to me, with the Browns and Saints, a distant 1 and 2, though.
Okay. Pick number 5 in drafting the draft order here in 2025.
I'm going to break your heart a little bit and go with the Giants. Because we did say a lot of good things about them. I believe a lot of good things about them. I just hate their schedule. And in the end, I expect the team to be much better, to be in a much better place, probably with a young quarterback. But I just don't think the wins are going to follow. And we're just talking about where you end up in the draft order. And I just don't see many wins on that schedule.
Yep. And again, Brian Daboll as a head coach hasn't proven he's going to win a lot of football games yet. And there's still a lot of what ifs, even if okay, cool, there's a couple of good, some good plays in the preseason for your quarterback, good reports. That doesn't mean he's a Pro Bowl quarterback or anything like that either. And he's not even the starting quarterback yet either. And so a lot to be determined there for the Giants. They could go a lot of directions.
They could.
And I'm glad you drafted them, though, so I didn't have to draft them, because I did say a lot of good things about the Giants potentially yesterday. But there's also a lot of reasons to believe they won't be a very good team again this year.
I agree.
My next pick is the Carolina Panthers.
I was torn between those two. Okay. All right.
I'm just not really sold on Bryce Young, and I like that he had an uptick last year, late in the year, but the guy he targeted the most was just sent off to Minnesota. Just saw a report that Hunter Renfrow is going to be the number 3 guy there between the two young Xavier Legette and T-Mac on the outside, as the head coach mentioned. He's XL and T-Mac is what he called them, with Renfrow is going to get the slot work early in the season there. They still don't have a lot of pieces top to bottom on that football team. Defense
was historically bad, and I think now it'll go to just really bad as opposed to historically bad,
and by the way, they were they ended up with what, the 8th pick in the draft, right?
I think they picked in the top 10 for like 12 years in a row.
So they were a 5-12 team last year. I believe they were 8th in the draft, but they had the worst point differential in the entire NFL, minus 193 last year.
Okay. Oh, it's bad. I mean, the defense was really, really bad. Oh,
this gets tight. Like we're gonna get some mean tweets and some mean
people are gonna be mad at us
on YouTube doing this in reverse order here, Matt. So pick number 7 in our drafting the draft order.
I'm taking the Colts. They're mediocre year after year after year. They're usually not this low in the draft. I just don't think they have a quarterback. And I think their head coach is more of an offensive coordinator than a head coach. They have other pieces, though, that you kind of like, and I think the defense could be okay,
It just feels like something that's slowly crumbling down, and at some point you go from 8 and 9 to there it is, reset button,
6,
let's fire the GM, right? I just feel like that's the direction it's going, rather than the surprise team like, they won 12 games.
Yeah, I just can't imagine. I don't see a high ceiling here.
Right? No, I'm totally with you. There's some teams with ceilings that I like. I think I might break your heart. You went with the Giants. I'm going to go with the New England Patriots.
Oh, no. They were my next choice, actually.
Okay. I know you're a Drake May guy.
I am.
I think they upgraded with Mike Vrabel, and so I could see things going well for this team too, but you still need to see it. They still have a lot of work to do on the roster.
100%. I think the betting market, the optimism around this team is like a year ahead of itself. I mean, I think that they're okay. We're finally not terrible, and we're getting out of the Bill Belichick terrible drafts and all the badness that happened last year. And I do think they have a quarterback, but I just don't see weapons. I think the offensive line still needs a lot of work. Yeah, I was torn between those two teams.
So if you listen to our show yesterday, you know who our playoff picks were and our Super Bowl picks were. So we're talking about the rest of those teams that we don't think are going to be the playoff teams this year and drafting those. So let's get to the set. Let's see, we're on pick 9 next for drafting the draft order for the 2026 NFL draft. How are these teams going to finish in reverse order? That's what we're doing on today's program. If your team hasn't shown up yet, you might be sweating a little bit. Who's up next? Pick number 9 for Williamson when we come back. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The NFL season, it is basically here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. This is the biggest offer I have seen in the many, many years that FanDuel has been a sponsor of this podcast. $300 extra in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins, to bet on weekly lines, and all 17 weeks of every team's season is out there that you can already bet on. Bet on your team to win the Super Bowl. Tons of other prop bets for the 2025 season. Pro, college, baseball, basketball, hockey, any sport out there, you can find it on FanDuel. And it makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Are you guys still paying full price for gas? Well, you shouldn't be, because you can get money back every time you go fill up, which you're already going to do anyway. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. And by the way, you can use our limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas you already needed. At first, thought it was too good to be true. Then you pull it up, you see a map, you're like, okay, I can get this much cash back at this pump and this pump. So you go gas up and get a little cash back. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using our limited time promo code touchdown. Again, that's a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus on promo code touchdown. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Here we go. We are up on pick number 9 here in our drafting the draft order. Right. NFL teams draft for 2025, worst to first here. We're not going to get too deep and into the playoff teams here, but kind of talking about the non-playoff teams. You got to go back and listen to yesterday's episode to find out who we picked to win the Super Bowl and our season predictions there. We got Browns, Saints, Titans, Jets, Giants, Panthers, Colts, Patriots so far in the top or bottom 8, however you want to look at this. Pick number 9, Matt.
Vegas Raiders. Another team trending the right direction. I finally see the vision, but a lot of change. Could be some bumpy roads there. Could they be 0-6 in the division? That's certainly possible.
Yes.
And I really think the defense, especially the back seven, needs a lot of work.
Division rivals and all, but those Raiders-Chargers games with Carroll versus Harbaugh again is going to be a lot of fun. So, can't wait for that one. I think that's half the reason Pete Carroll came back and chose the Raiders, so he could
battle it out.
Harbaugh again.
That's good stuff.
No, that's a good one. I mean, and look, we're not guaranteeing these teams are going to be awful. If you want to come at us and tell us why and paint that picture why a team is going to be good, I get that too. But just odds, likelihood of where teams are going to finish. That's what we're drafting today. It's getting a little bit more difficult here. I kind of want to throw some dark horse bad teams in here. Mm-hmm. I got to go probably Dallas Cowboys next, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's two teams standing out to me right now. One of them was Dallas.
Bad vibes. You trade away your best player. Maybe a little bit deflating going into the season. There was enough questions. They still were, a 7-win football team last year, right? Mm-hmm. And did they get better? They got Pickens, lost Parsons.
No,
it's a bad swap. There's other changes to the roster as well, but mostly it's a very similar team. So, Cowboys bottom 10 team in the NFL.
My next pick also has bad vibes, but I think Dallas really deficient with their run game, and now I think the defense too. So Dak might have to be Joe Burrow to keep this thing afloat, and maybe he can, but he's not Joe Burrow, and just bad vibes, new coach, meddlesome owner. Yeah, I mean, I think Dallas is a good one. And the team I was torn between Dallas with is Miami. I think it's a fragile build. As the season goes on, they usually crumble. I think you have a coach on a pretty hot seat. I've been staying away from the injury conversation, but Tua is a little harder to trust to play 17 than most quarterbacks. I think their cornerback position is really, really bad. Secondary's bad. They don't have a lot of power. So they're mediocre at best to me.
Yeah, they're kind of volatile.
Yeah.
They could fall apart. Similarly to the Colts, where it's does that one last straw break and then they come completely crumbling down, or they will just be kind of in the middle of the NFL, another 8-9 season for them. But I could see it going well, and they're competing for a playoff spot too.
Maybe. It's a little bit of a fragile build.
Everybody's ready to crown a couple of the next teams that I have up here. I'm going to put the Atlanta Falcons.
I thought about them. They didn't make my list. I jotted down 14 or 15 teams, and they were kind of the just miss.
Let's see it. First year starter at quarterback. The success hasn't been there otherwise either, unlike a team where you say, well, the Minnesota Vikings are starting a first year starter at quarterback, right? With even less experience than Penix, because Penix actually played last year. It's well, they've won a lot of games, no matter who's been at quarterback. You can't really say the same for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. The reason I didn't is I just think they get 3 wins at least in their division, but they're I don't think the pass rush is fixed. I don't know that we're out of the woods on Penix. Already have O-line injuries. Defense is always below average. I think that's a good one. Gonna do one more each?
13. I think we could do a couple more, kind of hit these non-playoff teams. 13 is where we're at.
There's another one I think that history hasn't been kind to is the Chicago Bears. We know Caleb Williams is good. I still have hope, but they too could go 0-6 in the division, which gets you probably a top 10 pick if you don't win a division game. Rookie head coach that we're excited about, pretty good roster, but it's tough to come up with bad teams at this point too, is really the bottom line.
The Falcons and Bears is exactly who I was talking about. A couple of teams where it's like, we're still hoping a lot. Let's see it with these teams. And the Bears have a more difficult division to traverse this year. So I could buy you saying, well, the Bears should be more likely to have a higher draft pick than the Atlanta Falcons this year.
Yeah, because it only comes down to wins and losses for this exercise, not how good a team you are, you know?
Right. Let's see. Again, it's tough. Can I put your Pittsburgh Steelers in here?
I thought you might be bringing them up soon.
I kind of just wanted to see
you didn't have them in the playoffs, so I mean that makes sense.
Here's the thing: is they were a 10-win team, and I think they're better.
Mm-hmm.
So can I put them here? Like, if you said, okay, gun to your head right now, fewest wins between the Steelers, the Cardinals, even the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to be like, well, yeah, of course the Steelers are going to lose more games than those other teams because they never lose more games than all those other teams, right? And they're better than a 10-win team that they were last year.
But it's hard to come up with bad teams at this point, too. I mean, these are teams we talked about in the playoff conversation. I didn't put Jacksonville in the playoffs, but I had them as my just missed in the East, in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
But again, do we know Trevor Lawrence is good? I'm a believer, but he could still be bad. And it's a new head coach, and this team's been bad most years I've paid attention to them. You know what I mean?
You're right. You talked me into it. I'm going to pick the Jaguars.
Oh, you're stealing them. All right.
Sorry. Yeah. It's got to be the Jaguars of those teams.
Yeah. I mean, Steelers versus Jags to me, I'm definitely taking the Steelers end up with more wins.
And it's just that same, Falcons, Bears. It's like, let's see the wins. Come on.
Yeah, I hear you there. I guess we should probably wrap it up. But my last note's kind of funny because it plays off of yesterday. Is Arizona / NFC West. We talked about how anyone can win a division. Therefore, I think anyone can lose a division. Someone's going to be bad in the division. I'm just not sure who it is. So I'm going to kind of guess Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona's a tough one because I think they are a much improved football team. I think they're well coached. Kyler Murray is kind of like, who are you?
It's kind of make or break for him.
Yeah, but man, they've got waves on the defensive line now.
Mm-hmm.
They're 8 deep on that defensive line. You add, Sweat, and you add Walter Nolan and Calais Campbell, the old head as well, and it's like they could be a much better football team in a division that's like, I think, very even too. Like, I would probably, if we continued this draft, I'd probably draft all 4 NFC West teams like in a row.
That's what I mean. Like we've drafted garbage teams from every division except this one. So somebody's going to come in last. You know what I mean?
Right. Someone has to. Yeah.
Someone has to go last. Right.
I would probably bet that it's the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think you have to right now.
Cool. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. That was fun. Mm-hmm. Let us know. Who do you think? Who's drafting the draft? Who is your top picks for drafting number 1 in whatever the March for Arch or the I think there's already some other cute names for all the other quarterbacks. Looks like it's going to be a good quarterback draft and a super fun 2025 NFL season. And we're making picks tomorrow. Get your mailbag questions in this week as well for our Thursday mailbag at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Drop a question on the YouTube comments and subscribe while you're there. Matt and I back tomorrow right here, Peacock and Williamson.